Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet hope, Chicago. 2 is 4, 4 4 6. Come on, baby, now get your business fixed. Come on, honey, don't you wanna go back to the lemon light?
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman around, Sonny Hirsch, and your host, Avi Myers.
Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Check us out on the web at www.ntnm.org. There are links to YouTube in which you'll find all the videos from the last 10 years. Show's been running for 25, and that includes over 1,000 different interviews, 356,000 shows watched. Thank you very much. Glad you don't have anything better to do. Community Policing Caps24.org. We're big fans of community policing done right. And hopefully Eddie Johnson will get things back on the proper track. There's a community meeting tonight. I'd be plugging in Rogers Park, but you're not going to see this in time to be able to go there. In any event, it is a pleasure to reintroduce you to the executive director of the Cook County Party of the Democratic Party of Cook County. And in the second half, we're going to talk about the fact that he's editor of Forgotten Chicago, which is really cool. And that is Jacob Kaplan. Jacob, how you doing?
Thanks for having me, Avi.
And yeah, the weight gain looks good on camera, definitely.
Thank you.
The weight loss, I'm
Weight
sorry.
loss, yeah, let's get that one right.
No, for sure. I almost didn't recognize you when I saw you on Channel 11.
Yeah, thanks.
So, who interviewed you?
Phil Ponce.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. Talked a lot of great things. So.
No, I never knew you were involved in that, but let's get to the politics part first. So, well, right now we really don't have an election in Cook County coming up for, well, I guess you got the primaries in
March of next year.
Which, of course, is as good as the general election. So I urge everybody to get in. If you're going to get involved, you got to get involved in the primary, because if you don't win in the primary, you're not winning in November. You know, speaking of Forgotten Chicago, the Republican Party is even more forgotten than Forgotten Chicago.
Locally, not statewide, though. I mean, there's going to be a serious race in November,
there'll
of
be
course.
Very serious race, statewide and statewide, no question. Not to mention the whatever national races are going to hit the ballot too. But yeah, to say the Republican Party is forgotten, it's like even the Republicans aren't Republicans in Chicago.
It's an interesting scene, that's for sure.
Yeah, and vast wasteland, definitely. So what is your job as executive director of the, what exactly are your duties?
What aren't my duties is more the question. So I have to, you know, I work for the 80 committeemen of Cook County, which Democratic committeemen are elected by the voters of each ward and township. There's 50 wards, 30 suburban townships. So really, one of my things is interfacing with them, making sure they have the information they need to grow their organization individually. Also, we slate candidates for office. So coming up this fall, we're going to be slating candidates for everything from governor on down to judge. So dealing with the candidates that come to us, wanting to be endorsed, that sort of thing, figuring out what's going to happen and the process and all that. That's part of my job. And then just generally trying to promote Democrats in Cook County, especially now. Since the November election, we've had literally over 1,000 people contact us wanting to get involved. We've never had that before. Most of people would reach out, but not directly to the Cook County Democratic Party. But because of, I think, you know, Trump's victory, there's a lot of people, a lot of Democrats that are like, I got to get back involved. So figuring out ways to really harness that energy.
You know, it's interesting because Obama made a new generation of Republicans, and now Trump is going to make a new generation of Democrats.
It seems like it. It really does. I mean, based on the energy, whether it's at the marches, whether it's you know, the energy in some of these special elections that have happened nationwide, I really do think it's going to be a very interesting 2018 cycle at least for congressional elections and things like that.
Yeah, even Republicans are, you know, when I read my favorite conservative columnists, even they're pretty disgusted by what's been going on in the White House.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we didn't know what to expect. Nobody did when he got elected. But really, it's what's I think amazing, at least to my mind, is the incredible incompetence of the administration. The fact even the priorities he ran on, he doesn't seem to be able to get done. So
Well, you know, I basically I didn't lay out things quite this way, but I wasn't a Clinton fan either. I know you were, but
well, I was
you
for
know,
the Democrat, whoever
no,
that was going to be.
definitely. But basically, I figured, you know, I didn't know what to expect. It was either Sodom or Gomorrah. Take your choice. And we got one of them. And neither one of them is anything desirable. And, you know, it's funny because my distaste, and I, you know what, I was on the phone with I got two nephews who were big Trump fans. And I think that, I never asked them, but they're probably big wrestling fans too. Because I compared Trump basically to a WWE wrestler. He sounds exactly that way, and it's pretty popular.
He's a great showman. I mean, he does great with crowds. He's got a special skill for that, that's for sure.
No, there's no question about it. And he does talk directly to people, and people do feel forgotten. Chicago, people feel forgotten,
Yes.
you know, as voters and citizens and individuals. But he's been making me sick of, you know, he actually started a rival football league. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I think I heard something about that, yeah.
But he started something called the USFL, and he did sign some big-name college stars. Of course, it didn't go anywhere, but I couldn't stand the guy back then, and I give myself all the credit in the world for having that kind of taste.
There you go.
So, you know, it's like, this is such a lost opportunity for Republicans because it was actually an opportunity to get somebody good in there, and there were they had 17 candidates. All of them were better than Trump, every single last one of them. And even in Jewish Chicago. And, you know, I've been actually pretty accurate about elections. You know, when I wrote about Bush, I talked about I didn't understand why he's running for president because I wouldn't vote for him as dog killer. I was I did.
Yeah, okay.
I can show you the paper, too. I talked about how Obama really didn't have the proper qualification. Actually, Hillary was the right person in 2008, in my opinion, and that's who I was very much for. Because this country seems to go 8 years Democrat and 8 years Republican, almost no matter what. I really had trouble envisioning a scenario where Trump could win. I was totally shocked that he won. But somehow this country does the 8-year swing. It just does. And you kind of have to live within that swing. Because one party gets enough of their, you know, it takes about 8 years to really feed up people properly.
Yeah.
And, you know, any talk about the doom and destruction of the National Democratic Party, just wait and see. They'll be saying that about the Republicans in about 7 years.
From your lips to God's ears. We'll see.
So, you know what? One of the things that interests me, within the committeeman itself, you don't exactly have guys who always love each other. You have a lot of different factions within there.
It's a lot of personalities, for sure.
And you know what? Politics is a blood sport. And that's putting it nicely. You know, like, I remember the last time I interviewed Jan Schakowsky in her office. You know, nice Jewish lady. Before the interview, she's picking all the lint off my coat to make sure I look as good as possible on camera. But I knew in the other hand was a machete if I asked the wrong question. So even somebody nice like that understands what kind of sport it is. And I asked her, is politics a blood sport? She looks at me like I'm weird. He says, of course it is.
It ain't beanbag, as Harold said.
It ain't beanbag. So you've got people who really want each other's jobs, want each other's power, would like to see other people destroyed, and you got to get them to get together and agree on things.
Yeah, it's a challenge oftentimes, but I do enjoy the work, and you know, we can get things done and get behind good candidates and get them elected. It's satisfying.
No, and there are definitely times. Listen, the fact is that whoever does win the Democratic primary in Cook County, generally speaking, is going to win. It's not always the endorsed candidate. I mean, it used to be always, but now it's still pretty much a lot of the time.
It is.
But you know, you don't always have a consensus of committeemen either.
No, you don't. But you work to build it as much as you can, and hope that we're all working together once the election comes around.
Yeah, that's one of the problems with this country in general right now is people needs to understand that you know, together we stand, divided we fall is not just an old saying. You know, it really is. It's like, you know, even though I didn't care much for Obama, you know, I cheered for the guy to do well. I don't care much for Trump, but for the country's sake, I cheer for him to do well. I also know how far those wishes are going to get me, but that's another story.
Remains to be seen, right?
I think it's being seen
Yeah,
already.
all right.
So, how's Joe Burius to work with?
He's great. He's great. He's outstanding. You know, and as chairman, Joe has really done a great job opening up the party to a lot of people that, you know, 20 years ago was basically a party of, for lack of a better term, white Irish guys. And
Yeah, it was.
And he has really opened up the party where we now have very diverse slates of candidates, and we've elected a lot of those people, whether it's women, minorities, African Americans, Latinos. I mean, we really try to...
No, you have really good representation, no question, among African Americans and Latinos, much better than before. And, you know, I hate when people complain about, but like, you know, if you're X% of the population and you only have 2% off from what the thing is, you know, like, that's still a lot better than it used to be.
Mhm.
You know, under the old Mayor Daley, of the 50 members of city council, this is in the early 70s, okay, basically, there was either 1 or 2 Jews,
Mhm.
and there were 48 Catholics, okay?
Yep.
And whether or not the guy was Polish, whether or not the guy was Irish, whether or not the guy was from England or Germany, it was always a Catholic.
Even African Americans, he always went
We're
for
always
Catholic.
Catholics. They
Yeah.
were always Roman Catholics.
Mhm.
And the saying I used to hear was that, you know, I remember one Jewish candidate being told point blank, if you can't kneel next to the mayor in church, you ain't getting nowhere.
There was a lot of truth to that back then.
And Richard J., we're not talking Richie M., Richard J. actually used to have to breakfast every morning with the Cardinal.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the Cardinal had an awful lot of input into what was going on.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very different day and age, and I like this day and age better. I mean, hopefully, you know, there's some people who still miss the old days, but then again, those were the people who were politically connected properly in the old days.
Yeah,
There's still a lot of people that are politically connected.
but it's a much more open, and it's changed a lot. It's a totally different party and totally different city since
you
then.
can't do what you used to, and as a matter of fact, I hate to say it, there are certain advantages to the way things were run before the Shackman era, and
But it was unfair to a lot of people.
it was unfair to a lot of people. And no, you're right. I'm not saying it wasn't. You know, if you played the game a certain way, you know, but no, I know if you went the wrong way, you might not have your garbage cans.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really
There
the
is
way it
truth to
was.
Yeah, that's true.
So, in any event, so there's 80 committeemen total. There's 50 ward committeemen and there's 30 suburban committeemen.
Yes, yes.
Okay, and you've got, how many factions would you say there are among the, like about 3 or 4 different factions? Or?
It's hard to say. It depends on the election. It depends on, you know, and committeemen change as well. We've had, I think, well over 10 new committeemen came in this last election, many of whom, you know, historically committeemen in the city were always aldermen. You know, that was, you
Right.
know, you were especially powerful if you were the alderman and the committeeman. But out of those, you know, more than 10 new ones, a lot of them are not aldermen now. They're just committeemen.
Yeah,
So it's a totally different ballgame.
And not to mention, between Richie and Emmanuel, a lot of the power that a committeeman had is no longer there in terms, well, part of it is Shackman too, but in terms of jobs. And you know, you don't even have ward sanitation departments now that are run by, yeah, it's centralized. So, yeah, it's a completely different system. I will say this, there's a lot of very outspoken people, and city council is much more interesting than it used to be.
Yeah, there are a lot of factions there now, for sure.
Oh, there's a lot of factions there, and I don't see people's you know, I used to go down and cover it in the early 70s, and if one of the independents started speaking up, his microphone would get shut off.
Yeah, famously. Indeed.
That was a lot of fun to watch, though, I got to tell you that.
Yeah.
So we're about at the halfway mark right now. So, you know, one of the things I didn't know you were involved in, and one of the most interesting things I've seen on Facebook, is things like Forgotten Chicago, where I see, and you're the editor of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why don't you tell us about it?
Sure. So about 10 years ago, myself and a couple friends from Whitney Young High School got together, and we were always...
Where is Whitney Young?
That's on the near west side. It's a magnet high school. It's actually the first magnet high school in the city. It's near west side, around Ashland and Jackson. And, you know, I took the L all the way from Rogers Park to the near west side every day to go to high school. So got to see a lot of the city.
Oh, you're
needless to
Rogers
say.
Park native.
Yeah.
Okay.
East Rogers Park, yeah.
Cool.
And, you know, saw out of the city and saw buildings, wondered what the history was, just naturally had an interest in that topic. And found some friends in high school that were also interested. And we thought, why is, you know, of course, the great landmarks like by Louis Sullivan, Frank Lloyd Wright, those are pretty well covered, and those are great. But we saw, why is there no website or organization kind of covering overlooked neighborhoods and buildings and things like that in the city as a whole, in the neighborhoods, not just downtown. And so we decided to start it ourselves 10 years ago. And never thought that 10 years on we'd be going strong. I mean, one of the things that we do throughout the year is we do tours, walking tours, bus tours, boat tours, and those are extremely popular. We give lectures at local libraries, but just generally we have this great website, ForgottenChicago.com, where we have a lot of great content. We keep always updating it and adding new articles and new topics. And we also have a Facebook group with, I think, near 80,000 members now.
Wow.
So,
I'm going to have to join that. You know, I got Michael Strom, who right now is the chief assistant to Tim Evans.
He ran for judge.
Yeah, he did, and as a matter of fact, you know, he had the highest marks of anybody running that year. And one of these days, somebody's going to get smart and, you know, make him a judge. And I hope he gets there. But he is a year younger than I am, and he grew up just a few blocks away from me. And we didn't know each other back then at all. And he's really big on the history, and I get stuff from him sometimes that I didn't realize started with you. And
there you go.
I got to tell you, just, you know, it's cool to remember, even if you didn't have fun at the time. But like I went to South Shore for 1 year. Otherwise, I went to Jewish schools the whole time. In my class, there were about 3 famous people. I'm going to forget a couple of names, but one of them is a judge, former alderman of the 7th Ward.
Okay.
And I can't think of her name right now. But the single most famous person from our class, and I didn't even know she was in our class, and considering what a big mouth she has, I'm surprised none of us knew who she was Susie Orman.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, everybody knows who she is from her stuff on Channel 11, but yeah, none of us knew who she was. But it's so cool to go back and take a look at that stuff. I mean, there's nobody else providing that kind of service. And I mean, where do I get to see I love seeing pictures of the area I grew up. My dad's store was in South Chicago. You know, we lived first in South Chicago, then South Shore. And I just love seeing what that looked like in those days and what it looks like now.
Yeah, no, and one of the great things, I mean, we have the articles up on the website, and we uncover a lot of historic photos for that, but just on our Facebook group alone, if you put on there, I'm looking for historic photos of South Shore from the 1960s, 1970s, people will post photos. It's just a great community of people that have that stuff, and will put it out there, and somebody will post a photo wondering what intersection this was or something like that, and all these people will write in, and somebody will get it right. I mean, it's just an amazing community.
I get curious that way too, to tell you the truth. And if I'm watching sometimes even if I'm watching a TV show, I want to know where, especially an older show.
Yeah.
They'll always give you a phony street name.
Of course. But usually you can decipher where it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I got to say that I was watching an episode of Chicago. I think it was Chicago Fire.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys were on a fancy tour of Chicago. And they were like making up the names of streets they were on. And their bus got stalled. But it got stalled somewhere around like Roosevelt Road and Kimball.
Mm-hmm.
Which, no way in hell there's a tour bus going through there.
Probably not, unless it's one of our tours, because we do.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, basically the one thing because you know what? When I was producing books, which I still do, but not as much as I used to, some of my binderies and some of the print type people I was using were near neighborhoods like that, and I had to go through them. And you know, there's certain stretches of Roosevelt Road where the only people out on the street basically are trying to flag you down if you're interested in making a deal.
Yeah, yeah, there's some truth to that. But no, we've given a couple bus tours of the old Jewish West Side out there.
Oh,
so
no, that's
Lawndale
interesting.
Yeah.
You know what? You know, none of this is on the web, but we have old Jewish Chicago. You know, Jewish Chicago is actually a paid. I'm the publisher and editor of Jewish Chicago, which is now completely a political paper. But it was actually more like a Chicago magazine type paid publication in the 80s. And I had a writer, B. Shapiro, who's still around, who did articles with pictures of the Old West Side. And next time I see you, I'll, at the very least, I'll scan in, because I don't know how many copies I have left of some of these papers.
Nice.
Because they're 30 years old. But yeah, there were all kinds of, we probably did other neighborhoods too.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I know somebody else to hook you up with too, by the way. I'll off the air, I'll put you guys together on Facebook.
Thank you.
Because he loves taking pictures of old synagogues and things. And matter of fact, one of my brother's best friends, a mezuzah's like this. If you ever see something on a Jewish home, there's like a thing that's on a diagonal on a doorpost. And he went through the Old West Side. He wanted to go to all the old synagogues and collect all the mezuzahs.
There's a lot of them.
And yeah, there were a lot.
There were a lot of them, yeah.
He succeeded.
Wow.
There was only one place that was a gang headquarters where they wouldn't let him in. But even when some of these places were of questionable character, they would still allow him to take them down. And he actually had them checked by a scribe, and a lot of them were still kosher.
Wow.
And highly usable. And by the way, he also, what he also did is he had a fake badge, and he put a fake flashing light that looked like the police on what his car, which looked like an undercover car. So when he stopped somewhere, people thought he was a cop. And that's basically how he got away with some of the stuff he got away with.
Wow. Creative.
Very creative. I don't know that he took pictures, though, so I don't know that he was a photographer, but it was pretty cool. But there's a lot of history. I actually had my, when my mom and my aunt were still alive, I had them give me a tour of the Old West Side.
Nice.
And boy, it's just, there's a lot of buildings that aren't standing, but there's a lot of buildings that are.
There's still a lot, especially on Independence and Douglas Boulevards. A couple of them were recently landmarked, too, by the city. So they're not going anywhere.
And you're talking about some really, you were talking about people like Sullivan and Adler before, and
some really notable architects designed them, yeah.
Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, magnificent buildings.
They are. They're amazing. And it's history that, you know, a lot of people just don't know about.
Yeah, you know, movie theaters is another thing because, you know, people don't remember what old-time movie theaters used to look like. And having grown up in South Shore, we used to go to the Avalon Theater.
Still there?
Still there, and now it's the Regal, I think?
Yeah, though it's been closed for a while, and there's questions about what's going to happen with that.
Which is unfortunate.
It is a city landmark, so it's not going to be torn down.
It basically had a Taj Mahal Arabian Nights theme.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing.
there were live stage and vaudeville shows there. It sat about, I'd guess, close to 3,000 people.
Yeah.
Mike Smith, who was the lead singer of the Dave Clark Five, actually broke his leg there.
Wow. Hey, there you go.
The adoring fans crushed him on the stage.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, it's not a joke. That really happened. But it was like a palace. I mean, people see the Uptown Theater here or what's left of it, and they tell me what a palace it was. But, you know, on the South Side, some of those old theaters were actually nicer.
No, and what's really notable is that every single neighborhood in the city had at least one or two of those.
No, it's
There were
true.
so many. Most of them are long torn down, but there were so many of those.
And what would be considered actually the cheaper versions of a theater now would be considered grand, oversized theaters, and
Yeah.
they'd be the cheap stuff we'd go to. I remember the old Jeffrey Theater, I think, is a black Muslim headquarters right now.
Yeah, I believe so.
That was on 71st and Jeffrey, and
Actually, I think it was a bank for a while, and I think it might be vacant now.
oh, yeah, it's been a while since I've been down
Yeah.
there, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. We used to walk over there, and there was the Piaxon, and movies, of course, were a slightly different price, and that was, I think, the most I ever paid for a movie on the South Side was $1.25.
Yeah. No, they were back in the days when a lot of people didn't have air conditioning. That was the place to go in the summertime.
That's exactly where people went. And, you know, in Douglas Park, too, you see pictures of people out at night who slept in the parkway, which you'd never see now.
Yeah. Or on the beach. I mean, they used to be common.
Yeah. No, not to mention, I mean, people don't realize what treasures are on the south side. Well, I'm pushing the south side here, being the next south sider.
Nothing wrong with that.
But no, Rainbow Beach was, when we moved north, I couldn't believe how tiny the beaches were. There was like a block of sand on Rainbow Beach and more athletic fields than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah. No, that's a beautiful one. Beautiful.
No, it really is. Except we stopped going for different reasons because the steel mills were still in operation then. And boy, when the wind blew the wrong way, you did not want to be on that beach.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
So what are some of the most interesting things? Is there any neighborhood you feel particularly tied to from what you've seen?
I like them all. I really do. I really do appreciate the overlooked neighborhoods of the south and west side, but I like everything. And there's so much great history, you know, on the northwest side in the Avondale, Logan Square area. Actually, I co-authored an Arcadia history book on the neighborhood of Avondale. And
oh, wow.
I'm now working on Logan Square, which will be out later this year. So love the kind of, you know, mid-northwest side neighborhoods, many of which are now really gentrifying, but there's a lot of history there that we enjoy covering. So,
you know, when you're coming out with the book, you know, I want you on the show to plug it.
Be happy to. Be happy to. Absolutely.
So no, that would definitely be good. So you got tours.
We do. We have plenty of tours this year. On our website, ForgottenChicago.com, we've got practically every Sunday and throughout the summer, we've got a tour. So check us out, and if you're interested in them, you should go on one of our tours. Walking tours, bus tours, boat tours, we've got them all.
Oh, boat tours too?
Yeah, in fact, but not boat tours down the Chicago River. We do boat tours, we've been doing this for a while now, down the Calumet River on the southeast side.
Oh, see, that would interest me because that's not far from where I grew up in South Chicago.
Yeah.
And, you know, my father actually used to get smoked fish that was caught that morning and smoked that day, but not at that place at 95th that everybody
Which is
knows.
great. I love that place.
Okay, I've never been there. He had his own guy. You know, because he wasn't the only, you know, there were quite a few of those in those days.
Yeah.
And that's before we knew what the Calumet River was really like.
Yeah, no, it's true. But no, it's a great tour, and we go down and see the remnants of the steel industry. As you mentioned there, most of the mills are gone now, but a lot of interesting remnants go under the Skyway. You know, it's a very cool perspective.
You know what? Maybe I'll try to talk Sonny into bringing the camera aboard and doing an episode on that boat trip.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
That I would love. I have never really explored that part of the area, and I was too young to really appreciate it when I was down there.
Yeah, no, it's unique. There's a lot of history there. A lot of it forgotten for sure.
No, there really is, and the views. It's like being in a different world.
Yeah. But no, if people want to check out the website, ForgottenChicago.com, find us on Facebook, Forgotten Chicago. We're on Twitter. Sign up for our email list. You can find out about our tours as soon as they appear because they sell out very quickly, typically. But we'd love to see people on our tours and checking out our website. And of course, on the politics side of things, if you're interested in finding out more about what the party's doing, cookcountydems.com, Cook County Democrats on Facebook and Twitter. It's all there. Check us out.
And first of all, the tours sound great, and I definitely want to take advantage of that. As far as the politics go, hey, vote early, vote often, but you got to vote. You know, this lack of participation of people voting. I hate it when people say, I can't believe so-and-so won. And I ask them, did you vote? No.
No.
And I just say, I'm not interested in your opinion.
Yeah.
You know, if you didn't have guts, there was one guy at my favorite butcher shop who we talk, and then I asked him one time, you know, did you vote? And he said no. And I said, we're not talking politics anymore. That's it.
Yeah.
Not till you vote. So anyway, Jacob Kaplan, thank you so much for being here. Thanks to my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch. Thanks to all of you for joining us. And stay tuned next week. Matter of fact, we got Sean Tunner. No, not Sean Tunner. We'll have another interesting show. Bye, everybody.